What's up guys, Ben here with Stringer Bridge Farm, and if you remember way back I done a video on some chestnuts I planted. Now if you know, we are way down in South Louisiana. We are south of Baton Rouge, and I planted these chestnuts 2 years ago, a little bit over 2 years ago, and I've had some disappointing growth, but I got some pretty good explanations for it. Now one is, you can see they're very neglected. So I've got a row of them and you could probably barely make them out. They're in cages as protection against deer and cows. But let me go ahead and get a couple of these cleaned up where we can get a better look at them, and I'll show you what we got going on. All right, well that really sucked. I'm sure I didn't get it all on camera, but basically you saw I got destroyed trying to clean that thing up. So first off, you can see big old pile of fire ants. I don't know if y'all have those where you live, but they bite really hard, and I got covered in them. Then before that, when I was trying to take the wire cage off, you probably see a giant wasp nest right there. I got stung by a wasp, which not horrible, but not great. And then finally I got the weed eaten and I got the tree cleaned up. Now, before I explain what we went through with these trees, I'm going to do a quick little walk and see how many of them survived out of the group that I planted. So I planted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there should be 5. Let's go see what we have. So if I start on this end, it's small, and you can see another big wad of wasp in there. But this one is still alive, even though it's smaller than I'd like. So that one survived. Then we have the one that I just cleaned up, which it survived. We have number 3, and I do not see a live tree in here, so I'm gonna say that this one is good and dead. Then number 4, I had the cows break in, and this is one they busted into. So you can see the cage is knocked down, but I do see a tree coming out of there, but it's tiny. So we're gonna clean it up and see what we got going on there. But we do have that one. And this one here looks to be in pretty good shape. So you can see there's definitely a chestnut tree in there, and it just needs to be cleaned up and the weeds taken back. All right, so at my other property about 10 years ago, I planted these same Chinese chestnuts, and in their 3rd year, they had gotten to about 10 or 12 feet tall and actually produced chestnuts. So that would equate to these growing basically 8 more feet and producing chestnuts next year. I don't think they're going to do that, but they do look fairly healthy. But the reason these haven't done as good as the other ones is kind of twofold. So one, I don't live on these lots yet, and so these are completely neglected. They're out in the middle of basically a pasture. I haven't watered them. All I've done is try to put cages around them to keep the deer from chewing them or rubbing on them. That's been mostly a success, other than what the cows got to that one down there. Then the very first, so I planted them in the fall, and that following spring we had a really warm winter, and all my trees, even a lot of the wild trees, budded out very early because it was so warm. And then we ended up with some dieback because after everything budded and was freshly sprouted, we had a hard freeze in like February, late February, and basically all the fresh growth died back, and we had some major issues. Now from that you can kind of see there's the original central leader on this tree is dead. So the tree actually died back to about right here, which is only 8 inches above the ground, and then it's since grown back. So that was kind of the first issue. All these trees very young got freeze damage because of a hot winter, late frost or late freeze. Then we go back to last summer. We didn't have a late freeze, but then we went the entire summer last year with no rain. Absolutely not one drop of rain for like 7.5 months here. And we have clay soil, so the ground got hard and compacted. But I think me leaving all this tall weeds, you know, I mean, you just saw there was 2 foot of weeds and brush, grass around these trees. I think that actually helped a lot by keeping the sun off the ground, and so the trees have survived. So I'm really looking forward to this winter. I'm gonna come through and I'm gonna prune a bunch of these, get rid of some of these really low limbs like this that come out almost at the base. Try to get just one nice central leader on all these trees. And then I'm really looking forward to how well they do next year, because if they've made it through those first 2 years totally neglected, I have the utmost confidence if we get some decent weather, these chestnut trees are going to take off, and in another 2 years, 3 years maybe, I would expect to be showing y'all some burrs with some chestnuts on them. I've successfully grown them here in Southeast Louisiana before, and I suppose we should be able to do it again here. So I got another one of these trees cleaned up, and again, it's smaller than I'd like to see, but it is alive and appears very healthy through this year. But you see kind of the same thing. This tree was damaged by that late freeze, and actually what happened is, you can see here's the original trunk. It's dead. It died with that late freeze, just like a lot of the other trees. And down at the base of it, it's actually still alive. But if you look, the biggest part, the new trees are actually growing from the root system. They're actually not growing from the stump of this tree. Now I really don't see any connection. It just looks like it came up from a root, which is very interesting because it looks like the exact same tree, but it's growing from like a root sucker or something. So I mean, they were seedling trees anyway, so I'm curious to see if we have any issues. Boy, am I lucky. Oh my goodness, look at that little wasp right there under that leaf. I did not get stung fooling with this one, and I missed that. But let me get away before I do. Now the other thing we have, I'll take you back to my house in a little bit and show you. As you can see, I planted a couple other trees. I got a pear tree and a persimmon tree and whatever. But I've got about 3 acres right here. I'm just slowly panning around. So that's my brother's house. It's my brother's in-laws' house. There's my house pad. We're going to be building a house maybe this winter, or in the spring we'll start building. Hopefully by late next summer we'll be moved in. But you see how big my yard is, and this whole half over here I want to plant up into fruit trees. And I've started making my own trees. So I've started grafting some citrus trees, grafting some persimmon trees, and then figs and blackberries, a couple other things. But what I don't know is how I want to plant them. If I want to make kind of a grid pattern and plant them in an organized manner, plant them in rows, kind of like these trees are, where I could plant between the trees with blackberries and such, or do kind of the free-form food forest and plant them like that. But anyway, I'm going to go back to the house. I think this gives you a decent idea of what the chestnut trees themselves look like. I'm going to go back to the house, get some wasp spray so I don't get destroyed by these next few trees that I work on. And then I can show you all the trees I started grafting and propagating, so that I'll have some good trees to plant next spring, hopefully when we're building our house out here. So here's a little view of all the trees I've been getting ready to fill in that whole area. So you can see got a bunch of different types. My family thinks I'm insane. If you look at these, I don't know how well you can see that, but these are actually wild orange trees. They grow wild on our property. And so I go collect the fruits in the fall, like right now. I plant the seeds out, grow the trees, and then I graft on the citrus trees I like. So you can see there is a graft union and a citrus tree that's growing on it. I've had some bug issues here lately, so it's not the greatest looking. You can see, like, here's one, same thing, graft union. And these are all about 3-4 months since I've grafted them. We've got persimmons, I've got mulberries back there, we've got pineapple guavas, we've got fig trees back in there. I don't know how well you can see the fig trees, but I've got a bunch of little fig trees, and blueberries, blackberries. There's a persimmon tree as well. This is a fuyu, so this is about ready to go on the ground as soon as we get into the dormant season for everything.